Can everyone inform me that they can see the screen, please?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, I think we're ready to go.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, sir.
But to our listening audience, first of all, we want to thank you for being here with us today. The class of Tourism 434, which is a sustainable tourism management class, as you would know. Just to introduce my classmates and I who will be presenting today. So everybody get comfortable. I would like for Kandisha to introduce herself and the rest of them, and then I will come back at the end with the introduction of myself and then officially begin the presentation.
Hi everyone, my name is Kandisha Forbes. My major is Education, Consumer Science, Tourism Studies, and I am a senior at the University of the Bahamas.
Hi, everyone. My name is Garnish Kelly, and my major is secondary education in family consumer science, tourism, and hospitality.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Elvardo Adams. I am a tourism management major, and I'm also a senior at the University of the Bahamas.
Good afternoon. My name is Danielle Simon. My major is tourism management. I'm a senior also, and me along with Elvardo will be presenting the environmental aspect.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mike Russell. I'm a senior student at the University of the Bahamas, pursuing a bachelor's in tourism management. And me, along with my partner, Garnish, will be presenting on the social aspect.
And as you know, as I said,
my name is Latrenda Lightborn, and I am also a senior at the University of the Bahamas, and my major is Computer Information Systems with Management Information Systems, and I took this class as an elective.
and as was mentioned in the beginning, I'm Travis Robinson. My major is tourism management. I'm a senior at the University of the Bahamas here. This is perhaps my last week of class. Woo-hoo. So I'm indeed excited about that. But to jump into our presentation today, our sustainable tourism class was assigned a community-based tourism project for our spring 2020 final research project. And this research project focused specifically on the rehabilitation of the Gambier village community to redevelop it into an ideal tourism hotspot. So as was mentioned by Mr. Thompson, our class conducted an on-site evaluation of the Gambier village community on Saturday, the 22nd of February in the afternoon. So this research presentation or this paper will seek to delineate and elucidate all of our findings and consolidate the recommendations that we have placed in the research paper, along with our proposed action steps for the way forward to turning the community of Gambier into a community-based tourism spot. It should be noted that our presentation as we proceed will be more specifically focused on the three processes, which will be the social, the environmental, and the economic approach for the revitalization of Gambier, and as well as the action steps to prevent any form of gentrification that may come about as a result of this community-based tourism project. When we look at our aims, there are three objectives or aims coming out of this presentation today. We will zoom in and define sustainable tourism and speak to specific aspects of Gambier Village that will bring out the life of sustainable tourism and how the village can be transformed into various sustainable tourism initiatives and programs that can be put in place to revitalize it. We'll also examine some of the challenges faced by members or residents in the Gambier Village community, because we know that if this project is going to be successful, we cannot just jump in there and push these initiatives and programs and redevelopment down the people's throat, but we have to work with them as a community to ensure that they are partners in this redevelopment effort, and to ensure that we tackle the challenges that they may be facing so that we will mitigate any possible hiccups that may come as a result of the project. Our final objective for this presentation will also be, as I mentioned earlier, to zoom into the social, the environmental, and the sustainable and the economic sustainability approaches that will come out of this presentation in greater detail. So we thought that it was important for us to first understand the community of Gambier Village and what it is really about and how it even came about. And many of you would know the development or the story of how Gambier came about, which was as a result of free liberated slaves that was led by Mr. Elijah Morris, who was the captain of the ship that was headed to New Orleans to trade slaves off there. And Mr. Elijah Morris and a crew of 18, and him included, made 19, they overthrew the guards on that ship, and they wanted to head to Liberia, but the supplies were not sufficient on the ship to take them on that voyage. So they end up settling here in Nassau, and those individuals, those 19 men who overthrew the ship were actually, they were not freed, they were kept incarcerated. But when Elijah Morris did become free, he settled in the village, what we now discuss as the Gambier Village community. And historians have shown and proved, even these many decades later, Mr. Elijah Morris' descendants still reside in that community today, which, as you'd see going through the presentation from my other colleagues, they will examine how that will be, how his descendants will be included into the overall makeup of the community-based tourism initiative. As well, you will see a number of ideal and specific landmarks that will come out of the presentation that are still relevant in Gambier today. Things like the rock oven stove, the thatch roofs, the bush medicine, the native church that has been there from 1856 will also be presented on and examined for inclusion into this CBT project. And finally, in the introduction to what you're about to hear and see, you would note that many tourists have been seeking the rich, authentic experience of the culture and hospitality of the local people of the Bahamas when they come here. And some research, tourism experts, however, have linked the fact that today we see so many tourists roaming in our inner city and rural areas to their desire for their desire for authentic Bahamian experiences. And we have also saw through research where tourism experts have linked the increase of Airbnb bookings to the desire for tourists to spark their own curiosity and find out more about how we live as a people, how the things we eat, the things we do, how we live, and they want to experience those things. Those aspects as well will be presented in this presentation. And so without further ado, I would like to invite our first presentation, which will focus on the social aspect or the social approach of Gambier Village. And this is what we would have coined as Operation Restore Gambier.
It takes a village to sustain a village. The social approach by Garnish Kelly and Michael Russell. So what is social sustainability? Social sustainability refers to the ability of the social system to perform at a defined level for a definite amount of time. It focuses on the respect of human rights and equal opportunities for all in society. It is the alleviation of poverty and the creation of healthy, livable communities to support the capacity of current and future generations to come. We took our project from the three-pillar approach, which is people, planet, and profit. So the people is an understanding of people of Gambier, their culture, heritage, and what can be done to improve their social well-being. Planet, the conservation and preservation of methods put in place to maintain social systems. Profit, community-based tourism initiatives to increase shared profitability and economic well-being.
All right, so as Garnish would have previously mentioned, social sustainability is one of the three pillars in achieving sustainable development. It's also one of the most important pillars in achieving sustainable development. So what it really focuses on is the respect for human rights and equal opportunities for all in society. And so when initiating social initiatives with the restoration of this Gambier project, one of the main areas that we wanted to focus on is poverty alleviation. And of course, that's being because this is one of the major social concerns, affecting the community of Gambier. So with poverty alleviation, we discovered that most of the residents in Gambier lack means of sufficient financial resources to afford themselves a healthy standard of living. And this can be the result of a number of reasons. Lack of jobs, no means of income flowing within the community. So another one of the results from poverty alleviation is that money made throughout the economy of New Providence does not trickle down or impact the community of Gambier in any way. So in initiating this social aspect in restoring Gambier, we wanted to focus on providing equal access to all public services. So the first public service that we focused on was healthcare. And this is a must. We feel that residents of Gambier should be afforded proper and available healthcare system. Within this healthcare system, medical facilities should be equipped with the necessary medication, the necessary technologies, and staff, sufficient staff that is needed to cater to the needs and care of each resident. There should also be an ambulance that is ready and available at all times to transport patients if needed. Considering the location of Gambier already, we know that it's far located along the outskirts of New Providence. And so we want, in the case of any emergencies, that be an ambulance ready and available to support and transport patients if need be. Law enforcement. We feel there should also be an efficient and effective working law enforcement system put in place to ensure the safety of each individual residing in Gambier. We know that social sustainability focuses on the social well-being, the safety and security of each individual living in the community. So law enforcement, therefore, an effective law enforcement system must be put in place. We feel an effective policing system would be the best precautionary measure in achieving social sustainability. Another area of focus, affordable housing. And this is an area that stood out to us because in our visit to Gambier, we found that in most of the houses, you would have there would be 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom houses, and you would find 10 and 15 persons living in each of these houses. So we want to provide equal access to opportunities and essential services as it relates to affordable housing for the residents of Gambier. After all, we feel they should be affordable housing that is afforded to every other regular Bahamian. So these affordable housing should provide access to clean water, a proper built kitchen, and a household built to accommodate the exact number of persons living inside it. Like I said previously, the residents of Gambier, like every other Bahamian or human, should have the right to feel safe and live comfortably and happy with their family in their homes. After all, this is what social sustainability is all about, ensuring the safety and security of each individual. Our next area of focus, quality education. And you all know the importance of education. We've heard the saying over and over, education is the key to success. So in order to initiate a successful social sustainability practice in the community of Gambier, a proper educational system has to be put in place to benefit every single student in Gambier from preschool straight up to high school. This proper educational system should include access to various means of technology that is awarded to each public and private school around the Bahamas. It should include innovation and much needed programs. Sufficient teachers in every classroom, lunch programs to assist the less fortunate students, and most importantly, a new and improved curriculum designed to suit the needs and skill set of every single student. In implementing this quality education system, we must bear in mind and realize that not every student is academically inclined. So we want to implement a curriculum designed to suit every skill set or every academic level for every student. Of course, once a proper educational system has been put in place, the next step now is to provide adequate jobs for the people of Gambier. So there should be adequately paying jobs provided that will be able to support individuals. Small business loans, entrepreneurship opportunities should be provided to those individuals seeking businesses of their own. The goal again is for the residents in Gambier to earn an affordable amount of income that will allow the individuals the ability to support their families and maintain a healthy and honest lifestyle. So our next step in focusing on this three-pillar approach focuses on applying. And in focusing on the plan, we want to focus on the preservation and conservation methods. So once we have already implemented these systems, provided access to all public services, implemented quality education, we want to ensure that the social sustainability is preserved and conserved, because that is what sustainability focuses on, preserving for the near future and future generations to come. So we want the community of Gambier to continue to grow, to continue to be productive, and make full use of everything that it has to offer. So one of the main preservation methods should be to provide a strong and effective social safety net that will be designed to sustain the community and also to help families and individuals of Gambier to get back on their feet. An example of one of these preservation and conservation methods that we thought of was to initiate organized groups. And these groups will be created to help many people in Gambier rather than just a few individuals within the community. So it doesn't focus on just a select few. It focuses on benefiting everyone equally and providing equal access to all the residents of Gambier. So these organized programs and groups should be put in place to empower the people of Gambier by involving them in the development and implementation of plans and programs to eradicate poverty and develop their economy. So if any individual within Gambier has an idea that could be used to further develop or implement plans and programs that can seek to further develop the social sustainability of the community, they can present these plans and ideas through these organized groups. These programs can also allow anyone of any age within the community, as I would have said previously, to present their ideas or plans on how to better grow Gambier Village. So the benefit and the advantage with these organized groups is it doesn't discriminate. It looks at any age, any individual. Once you have an idea that focuses on the social, economic, or environmental sustainability and development of Gambier, you're free to present that idea. They can also speak on the issues prevalent in the community, discuss them, and of course, come up with possible solutions to remove them. So these organized groups, a few ideas that we came up with, they can host food drives that can be used for the benefit of less fortunate individuals or persons living in Gambier, extra out of school classes for students that might be struggling with homework or classwork, urban renewal youth program that can be designed to provide activities for youth within the community to keep them active and engaged in positive activities. It can also have a children's home and a senior citizens home. So one of the main preservation methods that we came up with and that we decided to focus on was agricultural investment. And reason being is because we feel that the village of Gambier, this comes as an automatic advantage for the village of Gambier because it already has all the much needed resources to develop and start an agricultural industry, and it could be on a small scale. So in preserving and conserving social sustainability for the future, it's important that the community of Gambier is able to provide and sustain itself. So agriculture can afford Gambier just that. It can afford a self-reliant, socially sustainable economy. It can develop the community and rural areas, fund education and other social systems, and develop infrastructure. Agriculture, again, it presents itself as an automatic advantage for the people of Gambier. And so this would be an industry that would work and that would be feasible for the people of Gambier in any event because they already have the resources there to develop and start an agricultural industry.
Okay, so in regards to social sustainability, community-based tourism projects focus on utilizing anything that the community or village has to offer, including its residents, culture, and heritage. Gambier Village is full of cultural and heritage sites. Therefore, there are numerous amounts of opportunities for residents to become profitable off of what the community has to offer. Community activities. These activities will be run by locals because this will be the only way to ensure a sustainable supply of local income. Some of these activities will include local excursions and interactive activities that gives insights on the daily lives of the local community, and also educates tourists on the history of Gambier. Every activity that is mentioned will be operated and run by locals of Gambier Village. Gambier Village is known amongst Bahamians as a place where you can socialize with friends and family members and have a good time. This is an ideal community where tourists can enjoy the same fantastic experience as locals. And there are many activities that tourists can enjoy and participate in to get a full experience of what Gambier has to offer. The first initiative is the market. The market will be designed for the residents of Gambier Village to showcase their talents, creations, and designs to the tourists. The Gambier Village Park would be an ideal location for the market because it is the focal point of the entire community. In this market, tourists and guests will be able to purchase goods made by the locals in the community, such as straw works, homemade crafts, such as earrings and bracelets, even paintings and Bahamian delights. The agriculture product. The agriculture product in Gambier is an excellent example of an activity that tourists can experience. The farm is owned and run by residents of Gambier and can be profitable all on its own. The products that are produced on the farm can be sold at the market to tourists or locals or anyone that is visiting. Tourists can also participate in everyday activities of running the farm. This includes harvesting fruits and eggs, where they will get a full hands-on experience. Tourists can also learn about the produce and livestock that is grown on the farm and the benefits of them. The Heritage Tour product. The Heritage Tour product, in my opinion, is the most important aspect out of all the activities. This tour will include a walkthrough a walkabout through the community of Gambier, where tourists will learn about the history and other fun facts that Gambier has to offer. Discovering Bahamian delights. So tourists can visit restaurants and food sites in Gambier to learn about the different Bahamian delights offered, or simply have a traditional Bahamian home-cooked meal after their tour is completed. Tourists can participate in cooking classes where they can learn how to prepare authentic Bahamian dishes and have a chance to taste it as well. In the community of Gambier, there is a well-known cow salad stand. Here, tourists will be able to watch a showing of how cow salad is actually made from beginning to end. So mentioned above are a few ways the locals can gain revenue and be a part of every activity that goes on in the community. So social sustainability is the people. It deals with the people. And by this, it is very important in any community-based project because it protects the people of the community and gives them the power over their own historical product. And this way, revenue stays in the community.
The environmental approach by Danielle Seymour and Devanda Adams. First, I will discuss what is environmental sustainability. Environmental sustainability means conserving and managing resources, especially those that are not renewable or precious in terms of life support. It requires actions to minimize pollution of air, land, and water, and conserve biological diversity and natural heritage. Our focus areas in the environmental approach are the energy management, solar energy and LED lights, waste management, reduce, reuse, and recycle, reducing carbon emissions, reforestation, and education and awareness. Danielle will then go on to speak about energy management. Danielle?
Oh, sorry about that. I didn't have my mic on. In an aim to go the sustainable route with the CBT initiative in Gambier, we will consider energy management, waste management, reducing carbon emission, reforestation, and education awareness. As for energy management, solar energy will be a good idea for consideration. As a result of Gambier becoming a CBT, there will be many entrepreneurship opportunities for locals, more restaurants, souvenir stores, and square vendors, etc. Due to this high flow of business in the area, some vendors and locals should consider using solar energy. Solar energy is one of the most renewable energy sources. It makes use of the sun's energy and converts it into electricity. This will help reduce the environmental footprint in the community. Solar energy uses less water and generates power through solar panels with no water use. It reduces air and pollution because it uses the sun's energy, the sun to generate power, means less harmful emissions from burning fossil fuels. Solar energy is easily accessible, especially living in the Bahamas. As you know, we live in a subtropical climate, so the solar energy is almost always available. And according to scientists, this will be around for at least 5 billion years. Sorry, you can go right back. I'm not finished with solar yet. As we know, the Gambier village is an economically depressed community. The use of solar will help residents save money on electricity and allow for more disposable income. You can go to the next slide. LED lights, another action that can be done to encourage a sustainable CBT in Gambier is the use of LED lights throughout the community. Many of the homes and businesses in the village can consider using LED lights. LED lights use 90% of energy, which is converted to light, and 5% is used as heat, compared to fluorescent lights, which use 95% of energy as heat and 5% is into light. LED uses less power than a typical fluorescent light, which uses 84 watts. LED uses 36 watts to give the same level of light. The use of less energy reduces the demand from power plants and decreases the greenhouse gas emissions. Unlike other lights, such as fluorescent lights, LED lights do not contain toxic elements such as mercury. LED lights also have a longer lifespan, means lower carbon emissions, and they last up to 6 times longer than other types of lights. Elvardo will now speak on to our plans for waste management in the Gambier community.
Waste management, reduce, reuse, and recycle. Most residents in New Providence are faced with piles of uncollected trash and overflowing trash bins throughout the communities, which become a breeding ground for rodents and a target for wandering dogs. The community of Gambier is one of the areas faced with this challenge. Throughout the community, there are loads of garbage and old vehicles parked, causing an increase in rodents and fly infestation. This is a problem and needs to be resolved in order to become a sustainable CBT initiative. In the Gambier village, the action plan is to recycle as much as possible, instead of throwing out waste material that causes land pollution. It would be prudent to recycle them and make new products. The Gambier village community can practice waste management by creating solutions for solid waste and recycle items that don't belong in the trash. Now, garbage can be used to create valuable resources, especially in CBT. Many of these recyclable items can be used to create souvenirs for the tourists to purchase. Locals can create jewelry and souvenirs out of tires. This reduces the degradation of land and the pollution of air and water bodies. It's a practice that is very sustainable and great for the environment. It will cut manufacturing costs and keep the environment clean. The focus should be on materials that are not biodegradable because they are the ones that mostly pollute the land. Throughout the Gambier community, there were many cans and jars that could be turned into cups and storage containers once properly sanitized and through the process of recycling. There can be bins throughout the community for paper, plastic, aluminum, and glass to help ensure everything that needs to dispose ends up where it belongs. There needs to be rules in place to ensure recycling service will come into the Gambier community to pick up recyclables on a weekly basis. Danielle will then go on to discuss reducing the carbon emissions.
One way to reduce carbon emissions in the Gambier village, there needs to be a local farm within the area that produces organic plant-based and processed food. This will allow more Bahamians an opportunity to participate in farming. The locals can participate in a farm-to-table initiative where they grow organic produce and sell it to the restaurants within the CBT. This will help boost the local economy and support local farmers. Also, this will help the environment because the produce doesn't have to be shipped long distance, costing less time on a truck and fewer greenhouse gas emissions going into the atmosphere. Also, the quality of the produce will be fresh and delicious rather than frozen, bland food that is picked early to lengthen the shelf life. According to statistics, eating locally can reduce the carbon footprint up to 7%. And the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations claims that switching to organic can reduce up to 66% of CO2 emissions. Also within the Gambier village, reducing the use of water in the community is another way to reduce the carbon emissions. They can develop low faucet heads water efficient toilets in public restrooms throughout the community. By using less water, there isn't a need to treat pumps, so less money will be spent on electricity and chemicals. Devanda will now go on to explain reforestation and education and awareness in the Gambier community.
In regards to reforestation, there needs to be a cleanup group in the community to maintain the landscape area, for example, cutting the grass. This helps to increase forest cover and improve the quality of the soil. The restoration of forests is an important part of the process of improving soil quality and the value of the land. When we cut down trees and fail to plant new ones, we are doing the environment much disservice. It really doesn't take much effort. Improving the forest cover also increases biodiversity in the ecosystems, and this has so many benefits. There can also be a tree tour visit for visitors to become aware of the various plants and their traditional uses. The moringa tree, for example, is called the tree of life because it is good for almost everything, including high blood pressure, flu-like symptoms, etc., as well as the shepherd's needle, which is used for prickly heat, chicken pox, and to relieve a sick stomach. Both of these trees are found in the Gambier community. Along with the tree tour, there can be native tea stall where visitors there can be native tea stall where visitors would be able to sample a variety of bush teas and also purchase them. One of which is the fever grass tea, also known as lemongrass, which is used for treating digestive tract spasms, stomach ache, fever, colds, and exhaustion. In regards to the education and awareness, pollution affects everyone, so it's much better when you take the initiative to do something about it. The Gambier village can work towards having a clean community. Some people are just naturally environmentally conscious, while others require little prodding to do what is necessary. This is where education comes in. Teaching people about the effects of land pollution and what can be done to reduce it is a job that cannot be left just for the government alone. Yes, the government can do its bit by introducing it into the school curriculum and running media ads, as well as organizing awareness campaigns. But the civil societies and families can also play their parts in creating the awareness. Family heads can impact into their households good values so that environmental conservation becomes their way of life. When people are knowledgeable enough, they tend to do what is right. There can be community cleanups to assist with keeping the environment clean for tourists who visit the village. A change in mindset goes a long way in reducing land pollution.
The economic approach by Latranda Lightburn and Kendisha Forbes. Next slide. The economic liability understanding. So basically under economic liability, I have 4 main points that I'm going to go over. Understanding the market, delivering visitor satisfaction, maintaining good trading conditions, and maintaining land projecting attractive destinations. Presently in the Gambier community, there are 4 local businesses. 2 of the businesses thrive off of local support, and the other 2 thrive off of local and international support. In order for you to understand the market, firstly, all businesses should be properly trained. Seeing that Bahamas is one of Gambier's main sponsors, I propose that the businesses in Gambier take advantage of that by taking up the course at the Bahama Local Training Academy so that they can understand the concept of the tourism market and expand their business. And they could also take advantage of the Bahama host classes offered by the Ministry of Tourism so that they could better brand their product or brand their business and expand their thinking when it comes to tourism. Next slide. Delivering visitor satisfaction. So visitor satisfaction surveys focuses on the visitor's expectation and satisfaction. Particular components are all of the range of product, service, activities, places, infrastructure contributes to their visitors' experience. So basically, the main two visitors that Gambier have are domestic visitors and international visitors. So I would suggest that they would do surveys as to what the visitors want, because visitors are very vocal as into what they want and what they're expecting for their experience. So they can conduct surveys around the using the Ministry of Tourism, and they can conduct surveys and get feedback from visitors as to what exactly do they want to make their visit satisfactory. Next slide. Maintaining a good trading condition. To maintain good trading condition means the mission is empowered to the global travel and community to protect natural and cultural capital while creating economic value that benefits both trading members and destination. So I would say think sustainability and think international trade. In my opinion, I think for the Gambier community, they can look around to other communities and see what's working in their community. What might work for one community may not work for the Gambier community. However, it doesn't hurt for them to try to look around and basically piggyback off of other communities and try to expand their product or get what ideas are working for other communities and just enhance on that idea. Next slide. Maintaining land projecting attraction destination. To maintain land projection means to take care of the environment, doing your part by being environmentally conscious and keeping the area clean. I propose that they form beautification committees should be formed to help keep the community clean and attractive. Um, that's one of the main things when it comes to tourism. You have to keep the community attractive because ain't nobody want to go to a community that's filled with garbage and dirt and whatnot. So that's where the locals could come in and get involved and make beautification committees where they could go about every week. I know they do have one that they have a committee that goes out every week and clean the environment and make the community beautified. But they do have a problem with having heaps of dirt, piles of dirt in the community because they don't have the proper equipment. So that's where they could partner with their MP to get assistance with equipment to help remove large trash and piles of garbage. Next slide.
What is economic sustainability? Economic sustainability is generating prosperity at different levels of society and addressing the cost effectiveness of all economic activity. Crucially, it is about the viability of enterprises and activities and their ability to be maintained in the long term. And with this slide and with this being said, as it relates to the Gambier community, viability is crucial. And viability is simply the ability to work successfully. From my observation, first on, it appears as if Gambier has the ability to work successfully with each other because they typically have presently a committee, whereas they have the oldest person in the community who is encouraging and training and teaching the youth of the community about the importance of their community. So that is most importantly when it comes to creating economic profit and economic sustainability. Next slide, please. Money answereth all things. Now for this point, I want this to sink in. Money answereth all things. Okay, next slide, please. Positive financial incentives. Various forms of financial assistance can be used to influence behavior and support change. From the walkabout, um, introducing myself to the persons who have businesses within the community. They are willing and able to be on par with the project in terms of community-based tourism. However, they don't have any money. In this instance, the positive financial incentive come into place along with corporate social responsibility. For instance, you have corporate entities that are surrounding the Gambier community who can assist them and continuously assist them. For example, the park was donated by the Honorable Frank Watson, and also they have a baseball field that was also donated. So with that being said, with the consistency of corporate social responsibilities being so prevalent and continuously being prevalent, it could help with achieving economic stability. Next slide, please. Local prosperity. Local prosperity is needed to maximize the contribution of tourism to the economic prosperity of the host destination, including the promotion of visitors' spending that is retained locally. So in this slide, there is one of the popular businesses in the Gambier community that attracts both local and international visitors, and that's Dino's Kung Salad Stand. So in this slide, I will speak about local prosperity and how it could be obtained from reducing the leakages, strengthening links between businesses, influencing levels of visitor spending. Next slide, please. Reducing leakages. Leakages can occur through the repatriations of profit by external investors. So in order to reduce leakages, you have to support local owned businesses in the area. As previously stated from my colleagues, Micah, he emphasized that with the profits, and you have the farms, you have other businesses, like for example, you have Rhoda's Bar and Grill. So from those other entities and having a farm, the farm can distribute or sell products to the other businesses. For example, if Gino's Kung Stand needs vegetables, if they need, say, onions, instead of Gino going to a Super Value or a Solomon's Fresh Market, instead he can go to the local farm, Fernanda's farm, and purchase whatever he needs for his Kung salad. And that reduces the leakages within the community. Then it's ensuring that a fair proportion of total travel expenditures is received locally. For example, with taxis, of course, they will be transporting the visitors to the community. With that being said, the person or the visitors would book their tour from the hotel, which would be a Bahamas or an Atlantis or even a Hilton hotel once they hear about the Gambier Village tour, and they would be paid from, at least they would pay the hotel first to book the tour, and every entity that participates in that tour gets a portion, whether if it includes, okay, the taxis coming in agreement with the hotel to provide the tour, or further down the line, due to social corporate responsibilities, they could get a donation from a corporate entity to pay for a bus to provide for them to be able to host these tours without having to spend any extra. And whereas everybody that's in the community could receive a profit, or they could even pool together within the community and have one specific person conduct or be the tour driver. And that also is included in the encouraging of employment of local labor. So we know that the Bahamas has an issue with hiring non-Bahamians because of their rules or ways of not being able to pay what a Bahamian would expect, or for low wages to be put into the whole form for low wages. So to prevent this from happening, you would seek persons in the community and from the social perspective have a community meeting to say, well, this is what we have planned. We know that you guys are willing and able. We need some persons who are in need of a job to come forward if you need a job, and we hire you, whether it's to help with the farm or help set up the market on the park, the Gambier Village Park, or anything in terms of dealing with making a profit for the local person. Next slide, please. Strengthening links between businesses. Okay, with this being said, it says to encourage and facilitate local sourcing of supplies. As I previously said, this is to encourage persons from going outside of the community and making a sale or spending their money elsewhere before having the community be first preference. And also the next one is encourage cluster and networking businesses. Okay, clusters are networks or companies that interconnect and all have some similarities, whereas networks are alliances of firms to work together towards an economic goal. In this being said, you have to work together in terms of partnering, for example, with Rotors and the farm. Rotor could come together with Mr. Fernando. They do a SWOT analysis on what's the strength, the weakness, the opportunities, and the threats. And they build a vision and they action the plan. And after doing that, to say, okay, let's fix this. You don't offer this. Okay, is there a way for you to get this or plan this so that, because I need this and this is a necessity. Mr. Fernando also has chickens. Now, I'm not sure if he used them to say, okay, to kill and sell, but I know that he produces chickens and they lay eggs, so he sells the eggs. But you know, you need eggs for cakes, you need eggs for many things, even for breakfast. So it's partnering together and networking to see how we can resolve or avoid the monies from leaking out of the community. Recognize the need of multiple occupations, including tourism. We know that tourism is the #1 industry, but as it stands now, we're facing a pandemic. So there's no visitors coming in. With that being said, after much evaluations of the Gambier Village, and this is what I love so much about them, they have, the majority of them have more than one job. After speaking with Mr. Fernando, he said that the majority of them are fishermen. So if you don't see them within the community, and we went there around 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock that morning, and it was a little scarce. So he said, if you don't see them around the community, they're out getting fish and they're trying to make a living selling to other persons. So that's a way of creating local prosperity as well. And with that being said, also those restaurants that are in the community can profit from that or could pour into them by purchasing the fish or the sales the fish that the gentlemen bring in from that day. And that way, everything is a trickle down effect. Okay, next slide, please. Influence levels of visitor spending. Attract higher local spending markets. Okay, with this is technically, I saw fit with this one in terms of the local perspective and their Sunday night. Now, everybody knows that, at least it's known that on Sunday nights, that's when the locals head to Gambier for 8 o'clock. And by 11 o'clock or 12, they come back down. At least 11 o'clock, they come back down to the fish fry after, and then they head home. So in terms of that, they have the locals' attention. Gambier has the local perspective, and they know how to attract the locals in terms of that. So that one was out of the park when it came to attracting the higher local spending markets. Increased lengths of stay, as well as availability of spending opportunities and visitors awareness. And this goes back to the social aspect. And this is where the making of the market comes into play. Now, as it stands, Gambier reminds me similar to the West End Grand Bahama, where that's a fishing market. So they have their vendors lined along the seafront, and you have visitors coming in and they purchase and they eat count salad, they listen to music. And once a visitor feels as though they are in a protected area where they don't have to worry about being robbed, where they don't have to worry about anything in terms of harming, where they feel comfortable, where there are facilities, they feel at home. So at the end of the day, once they have these things in their what they need, that makes them feel safe, and that causes them to spend more money. Promote the purchasing of local products, food, drinks, and handicrafts. As my colleague said previously, there are 4 businesses that are prevalent in the Gambier community that has both local, at least 2 has both local and international, and 2 has just local. So with the market being placed in the area, you can also create tours. So 2 tours that I had in mind, at least our class had in mind, were A Taste of Gambier tour, A Taste of History, Welcome to Gambier Village, and then you have a walk through history, a walk through Gambier Village. We were slightly introduced to the walk through history aspect of it, whereas we were introduced, or we saw where the Mr. Elijah Morrison's house was located, and it had a plaque listed in the front of the house stating what he did or what's not. Now, our first objective was to make sure that this was the person who lives here and they could give that walk through history, and they were able to. And then the next thing would have been, who would we attract to these tours and the price for the tour. So we decided that a walk through history, Underground Railroad, bingo, the African diaspora. So this would attract persons of the African diaspora, where they get a walk through the history. You see the historical churches, you get to see where our footprints from being freed as slaves started. And the next one was a walk, at least A Taste of History. And that aspect was where you had food sampling of native fruits, where you had, you could participate in cooking sessions, and that could be priced as well to create local prosperity for the person. We also asked about persons in the community who were able to do pastries, Bahamian pastries, who are also famous for making crafts. And there are persons in the village, but sadly, there are persons who are there, but who were there, but they did not pass down their trade to others. And that is also important. And also in order to continue with the local prosperity, you have to make sure that the persons who are there consistently learn, and you continuously pass down the heritage to those who are in the village. Next slide. And we'll have Travis with the conclusion.
So finally, to wrap up and to bring the presentation to an end, I would just like to recap the 3 phases that we just would have discussed in the presentation, that being the social, the environmental, and the local prosperity for the Gambier village community as it relates to the community-based tourism initiative. When we discussed earlier the social aspect, there was a great focus on the need for housing development. We looked at the educational aspect of the people in the area, as well as the safety and security and conservation. Focus was also given to the agricultural development of the area for sustainability, the ability to feed and to provide for yourself, as well as the empowerment of the local people, because the product of the CBT is that of the community, and the community really belongs to the people who have been living there since birth. Many of the home have been living there 60, 70, 80 plus years. And so ownership to the people for empowerment and the managing, by virtue of managing these local businesses and entrepreneurship opportunities that was spoken about. We dived into the environmental aspect of, or the environmental approach of the project, which sees the need for more inclusion of solar energy to be able to reduce the amount of electricity that's consumed. The LED lighting that was mentioned to, again, bring down the cost of electricity to ensure that what we're doing is on a sustainable front. They talked about the recycling, reduce, reuse, recycling initiative, and the separation of waste management, separating the waste in the community to be able to reuse some of the things like whether it's bottles, old tires, that can also be included in the whole product of the area in terms of how we reuse these recyclable things. As well as the produce, they talked about the reforestation. How do we plant more trees, increase the greenery of Gambier Village to bring the CBT to life, as well as to avoid the greenhouse gases that was talked about in the environmental approach, and for a aim or desire towards the biodiversity of the community. And finally, in the economic approach, we talked about the brand product, the monetizing of the various aspects of the community, not just to guests and visitors, but all visitors, international visitors that is, but also for the domestic economy. One of the things that was evident, as was mentioned, is that Gambier have a very rich domestic social environment that happens naturally or on the weekends with the biker boys and the Kong Salad stand and the other 2 localized businesses that they already have existing in the area. We talked about Mr. Fernandez's farm, where he currently sells local produce, produce created locally to members of the community as a means to monetize or the product or keep the money within the community to ensure that we don't have leakages, as was mentioned, in the local prosperity of the area and community. As well as with the Dino's Kong Salad, which is another aspect. How do we tie those things into play with the farm, as was mentioned, to provide produce for the Kong Salad stand, who also provides produce for the food and restaurant businesses that will be created through the CBT analysis or the CBT product to ensure that they are supporting one another in the overall initiative of the CBT project. And finally, as was mentioned, the need to perhaps turn the local park that's situated in the epicenter of the community into a market where those who in the community with the talents, the gifts, the skills to create these local sculptures, the sewing of straw bags, as well as the rock oven who can cook for a presentation, and for the involvement of guests who come to the area, as well as the various tour packages inside the area that tells the story and history of where Gambier come from and what it is today, and how the people have been able to live together in a village with a village-like mentality. And so those are the three aspects that were discussed: the social, environmental, and economic aspects on our map towards creating or transforming Gambier into the perfect CBT product that we can produce, and have it as a model that other communities and other rural areas of Nassau and the Family Islands can follow in order to increase the economic local injection from various visitors that visit our island on a daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly basis. And so with that, we bring our presentation to an end, and we stand by for any questions.
Okay. Thank you very much, class. Thank you very much for all of the research, all of your findings in your presentation. I thought it was well put together and well presented. Thank you so much, class. This has been a very educational experience for myself. So with that, I will just turn it over to Dr. Vic. And
Hello, can you hear me?
hello. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Your line is breaking. Okay. Firstly, thank you to the class for the presentation. I think you've captured the essence of what we are looking for in trying to develop a plan for Gambier. So maybe I will start with a few questions before I hand over to Ms. Janet Johnson, and also to Dr. Richard Elifritz to ask any further question. The first thing I need to ask you is, did you carry out a SWOT analysis, basically to see what is the strength, the weakness, the opportunity and threat to make Gambier a truly successful CBT destination or CBT site? Is there any form of SWOT analysis that you did to see the strength of Gambier to work to be successful as a CBT site? Yeah, I'm just throwing the floor to any of the students, so anyone can actually respond to it.
I don't think there was a SWOT analysis per se that we did, but what we did decide to do was split up into three groups, and we looked at the three pillars of sustainability, that being social, economic, and environmental. And we assessed the community of Gambier, the challenges as well as the strengths in each of those areas, and came up with possible solutions as well as alternative to solve those problems or those challenge areas. So that's what we did. We split it up into groups of three and assessed the three areas of the three sustainable pillars.
Okay. So let's say now if I'm a tourist from Bahamas, and Bahamas is trying to market the Gambier village. They're trying to market this to this international tourist that is staying in the Bahamas. How will you convince Bahamas, or what is your pitch strategy to Bahamas to actually to get the tourists to come to Gambier? What will be your selling points to attract them to come to Gambier? Anyone?
Well,
Yep.
from my evaluation, I can say for myself that Gambier is a family-oriented community. That's number one. In terms of cultural aspects, they already have it because between them and Fox Hill, they are very cultural people. With that being said, as it goes with Bahamas, you can say that it's in very close proximity to Bahamas. So you wouldn't have to take them all the way out into a different area, whereas you will have to pump more money into redevelop, restructure, retrain in terms of what is culture. And that's one positive aspect of the Gambier community.
Okay.
You also have, as was mentioned as well, that when we look around today in our rural areas, and part of the reason I believe that we are getting, can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Oh.
Yes.
So part of the reason I believe we're doing this project is specifically because of the already existing desire for tourists to visit local communities like Gambier and many other inner city and rural areas of New Providence and the Family Islands. And that's why we see so many tourists today, or when tourism was booming, walking around through various areas that we would not normally have seen them in the past. And again, that's because of their innate desire to want to see, feel, and touch what the true Bahamian local experience will be. So to get Bahamas guests going to Gambier, it's a matter of advertising and strategic advertisement in the sense that Bahama would portray to their guests that Gambier Village is Bahamas' village of choice.
Okay. One of the interesting things that you presented was on the whole concept of farm to table. Is there sufficient number of farmers? Is there sufficient number of land areas for agriculture to actually do well and supply to the surrounding restaurants in Gambier, in order for this whole concept of farm to table to be successful in Gambier?
Well, as far as looking at the land, I didn't go into that in depth, but that's a good idea. But in the start, I believe it's enough land because we're first starting a CBT initiative, so it isn't going to be on a large scale as yet. But eventually, and even though there's a lot of land in the area, so if it's not directly in Gambier, it can be close to the Gambier community that can still supply Gambier. But I didn't look into that. But that's a good idea. I should have looked into that.
Okay. Thank you. Maybe I will hand over to Ms. Johnson.
Hi, everybody. Very good presentation, and thank you very much for your work. There are a couple of things. I like the starting out. I like the idea of an ambulance. I know that there isn't one in the Western area. I don't think. There was supposed to be one at Albany or Coral Harbor, but that hasn't happened. And so something like that at Gambier would be a good thing. You spoke about police presence. I think that is handled out at the LPIA station around the corner. So maybe there isn't a police presence walking up and down in Gambier, but they do come under that jurisdiction. About affordable houses. I remember the first time I went to Gambier recently to look at it from a CBT perspective and drove around. In fact, my board member, Cleora Farquharson, who's on the call, she and I drove around one Saturday afternoon, and we were amazed at the big houses that were in Gambier, and we were thinking, oh my God, when did they come? When did they get here? You know, this doesn't bode well for a CBT project because, you know, it sort of lost the village essence. And so Gambier has the Gambier village has really been reduced to 2 streets, as it were, from the old perspective. Now, historically, Gambier apparently started from Blake Road all the way to Lightfoot Key, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But so technically, in Gambier, what we're really talking about are the 2 streets. The primary school that you spoke about, that you felt that it needed to be primary and high school, I don't know if that's practical. The primary school does very well. It's very well supported. Bahamas has been one of their main sponsors, and I believe Albany has done some. And certainly it's a project that the ministers who live in the Gambier area, Dr. Minnis and his wife have taken on. In fact, Mrs. Minnis apparently runs the community garden, or started the community garden at Gambier. And we've been looking to see if we can get that going again so that everybody in the community could participate in that and benefit from whatever's grown in that garden. For sale, of course. You spoke of Mr. Fernando. I think he, in addition to his chickens and his son's crop farm, he also has a major pig farm. I don't know if you got to see, if he ever took you to see that. But he has huge pigs that he cultivates in the back, and obviously sells for native pork. So there's that aspect of it. When you speak of Gambier and you looked at it from a CBT project, I noticed that you didn't incorporate any of the other restaurants that are along the strip, such as Aquafire, the hotels, such as Compass Point and their restaurant, and also I think Studio 54 is another restaurant there. So those are restaurants that can benefit from farm produce that could be grown in the village and sold to those areas. Also, heritage fruit such as sugar apples and tamarinds and all of the different things that are made from those sorts of things, pepper jellies and jams and sauces, etc. The jobs you talked about in Gambier, now that's an interesting one, because a lot of people that live in Gambier that have where Gambier is part of their heritage, actually have jobs working in banks and other they're teachers or whatever, but they leave the community to go to their jobs every day. And so I wonder if you delved into looking at whether there were people there that would be able to do the tours, be the tour guides, etc. Or was that going to be something that maybe they were to look at in future? So for CBT, you talked about the tours, and the 2 tours I see were the walk through history and a taste of history, I think you called it. And you spoke about the African diaspora. Well, in our meetings with Bahamas, it's not only the African diaspora that would be interested in this sort of tour, I think, and this sort of experience. I think it would be a lot wider than that. At least that's the impression I got. And the fact that you also said the proximity to Bahamas was very important because it's just along the coast. So it's not that far away, it's self-contained. The area could be turned into a part of the village so that, you know, they could walk about from Compass Point all the way down. And of course, Dino's on the corner is quite a draw to the area. And of course, there's nothing better than a conch salad demonstration. And the best illustration of agro-tourism is conch salad, because you've got the vegetables that come from the farm, you've got the conch that comes from the sea, and you've got the tourist that wants to sample and enjoy it. So you've got agritourism in a bowl. I love that you looked at the lighting for the area, and you thought that the solar lighting was the best thing that could be used to keep the cost down for residents and for businesses in the area. The waste management is a huge challenge. And I wondered what were your conversations with people in the area about that? And you did a walkabout, but did you drive through to take a look at the different, you know, in the back, the streets? And also, you talked about farming, and you said that there was a lot of land there, but I want you to be cognizant of the fact that the land is privately owned. And in fact, Mr. Fernando owns quite a bit of the land in Gambier. So I just wondered about the waste management. There's at the back, there's huge piles of conch shells. I was told that a lot of the construction people from Life at Key and Oport Bay, instead of taking their refuse to the dump and paying to have it offloaded, tend to drive into Gambier and just offload whatever they want, and nobody stops them, which is amazing. But I just wondered what your conversations were when you addressed that matter. And if you felt that the community was sensitized to the fact that it was not clean and pristine, and that they needed to do something about it, and whether you got the impression that they would be willing to let you come in and do cleanups, and hopefully participate, not just sit around and watch. The reduction of the carbon footprint, very good. I'm glad you went there. And then of course the awareness campaign, which is very, very important. The tires for recycling. I know that we're trying to start a community garden in the east, and we're looking for tires for planting. So there's tires for jewelry and tires for agriculture as well. And I like the idea of the recycling bins. If we were able to get Gambier to be the prototype for recycling in the Bahamas, that would be amazing. You spoke about the organic farm, and this is where I wanted to talk to you about the fact that if you imagine that Gambier historically started at Blake Road and goes all the way to Life at Key, and then from the north coast all the way to the airport road. So I think that's, what do you call that, JFK? And if you look at all of the corporate businesses within that footprint, at Life at Key, you've got the aquaponics farm center. which is producing amazing greens that are sold in all of the food stores. And they have at least 5 or 6 30,000 square foot greenhouses out there that are just amazing and well worth a visit. I'm happy to arrange that for you. You've also got farm to table along the road by the airport industrial park. And then next to that, you've got Lucayan Tropical, which is a hydroponic. So you've got aquaponics, and you've a farm, and you've got a hydroponic farm, and then you've got an organic farm. So all of those farms could be considered part of the Gambier area. And then you've got restaurants that you've got Wendy's at the airport that could use lettuce and tomatoes and things like that if some of the farms in Gambier proper were able to produce those things and help with stuff like that for feeding the fast food restaurants. And then of course you've got Compass Point, and you've got Aquafire and the other restaurants just up the street. So there's lots of opportunity. There are lots of businesses in the area that can help and bring expertise. But I just wonder about the people and so who's going to be there to do the tours and to tell the stories and to guide people on a walkabout. But you did an amazing job. I'm just so in awe of the work that you've accomplished in such a short space of time. And it's a lot that we can build on. And if we're able to make the Gambier area the prototype for other heritage villages, this would be a good thing. So with that, I'll hand back over to Dr. Vic.
Thank you, Janet, for giving us a quick overview on the 3 dimensions of social, economic, and environment. Is there any response that any of the students wants to make to any of the comments that Ms. Johnson have made, or maybe some question that she raised across when she discussed the overall development of your plan? Is there anyone who wants to respond to any of the comments that Ms. Johnson have made? Anybody? No? Nobody. Okay. And I hand over to Dr. Ali Fritz.
Hi, good night, everybody, and thank you for the very good presentations that I thought held together very well as a panel and demonstrated a very good amount of knowledge and comprehension as well as preparation. I thought that everybody did a very good job with the organization and dissemination of information that I think altogether led to a coherent message about how to implement a CBT initiative with Gambier. So I was in Gambier when we did the walkthrough, and a couple of points that I was making during that time was about sort of like tourist perceptions of Gambier, which was kind of hit upon when talking about the dirt piles and things of that nature. And so I'm wondering if anybody wants to respond to maybe an issue, if it is one, of tourist perceptions. This is not exactly my area, so I don't know if there's literature out there on this, but do tourists want to see an area that maybe quote unquote looks more or less authentic, or that looks like there's been some time and attention to beautification or gentrification? And then there's sort of issues of how gentrification might affect the local community, if it would, you know, raise prices in the area or something like that. So that's one question. And then my second question to the group, if somebody wants to address this, is on community buy-in. And so how do you get long-lasting and committed involvement from community members to ensure that the CBT initiative is institutionalized over a long period of time? So again, good job, everybody, and I'll be happy to hear your answers to those questions.
Anybody want to respond to the two questions? Yes.
I could respond to the question on community buy-in. One of the things that we mentioned in our social initiatives as it relates to sustainable development was initiating organized groups. And these groups would afford the residents of Gambier the opportunity, residents of all ages, that is, to present their ideas, propose possible ideas for the community that could aid in its development. So I think with these organized groups, you get, I guess, a broader view of the different ideas and residents, because everybody could bring to the table ways in which they feel that Gambier could be possibly developed, or different routes that the community can take to implement a sustainable community-based initiative. So I think with these organized groups, that would be able to buy in the community and the residents of Gambier. That is.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yep.
Mr. Alfreds, can you repeat the first question, please?
Sure. My first question is about tourist perceptions of the area, of the Gambier area. So this is basically a question of sort of how sort of tourists would be drawn to and then come away with a sense of value or wonder or excitement about having visited Gambier. And you know, that question is in context of wondering whether or not there's a need to, and I'm not sure what the words are in tourism studies, but you know, gentrification is what we use in sociology, and then how that affects the community.
Well, from my research in terms of dealing with this project, the majority of visitors who come to the area, at least they already have visitors who come to the area. You have taxi drivers who normally have a routine, whereas they bring their visitors as soon as they come from the airport to the area. And there are visitors who want to come to a destination and experience something different. But the one thing that I can say that a visitor does first is that they observe. They observe the attitudes of a person. They observe the body language of a person. Even with me, if I go to travel to a different area, even if it's local, I observe my surroundings. So from observation, if you're giving me off like a negative or a funny type of vibe, then I'm not going to be comfortable. So in that case, I wouldn't want to be surrounded in that area. But in tourism, we as locals, as Bahamians, we have to first take ownership and understand what tourism is to us. And like I said, once a visitor sees or evaluates body language or areas, then they wouldn't have a problem being in that area. So I hope that answers your question in a way, in terms of that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
yes,
I can. Yeah, I can perhaps add to that too. Again, when you look at the tourism model on the whole, you also follow touristic trends. And I think I mentioned it earlier as well in the presentation. You would see when you look at the Airbnb statistic model, you would see year on year where there's a steady rise and increase of guests from all different parts of the world who are leaning more towards booking Airbnb homes within the local community of destinations. And while part of it can be attributed to the financial feasibility of it, you find a great deal is contributed to the desire for local authentic experiences. So you would have most of these guests desirous of the type of product that we're trying to produce by virtue of the trends that we are seeing with tourists walking around in various areas that we would not have normally seen in years prior in the Bahamas at large. And so I believe that speaks to their desired nature to want to tap into the local economy, the local culture even more, and thus the feasibility of the product.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Travis. Elvardo, do you have any question to ask?
Not so much of a question, but I was really impressed with the addition of the agritourism aspect of the presentations, the ability to incorporate handicrafts and the like. I like the idea at the end of creating the park into a market. I thought that was very innovative to create the park areas within regards to a mini straw market. I think that in itself can add as a huge economic boost. I think to answer the question, the community does have a community association, and so I think any possible tours or the likes can be facilitated through the community association. When we were there, we met the president of the association, and I think their association is very active. So I think possible tours or the like can be facilitated through the community association. I think that can be readily done by through the association, because they do seem to be very active and very cognizant of what's going on in the community. So I think possible tours and the like can be run through the community association. Yes, I also like the idea of, in terms of the environmental aspects of it, in terms of reforestation and using solar. I thought it was very innovative. I think those aspects can be readily incorporated or duplicated in other communities. And I just, overall, I think what was presented here was very innovative. And I think it has the perspective to be duplicated throughout similar communities. And so I think that's pretty much, also I liked the idea of the Taste of Gambier tours, as well as the walkthrough. I think they can be possibly facilitated or expanded along the coast, like Ms. Johnson said. I think all of that area can be a food tour. Just thinking about what, I think her name is Alana Rogers, and the food tour of Nassau. I just piggybacking on what she's done, I think that can be readily implemented in Gambier. So I like the idea of the Taste of Gambier tour, as well as the Walk Through History tour. So I liked all of those aspects.
Okay, we have Clara here. If you have anything that you want to add on.
Yes, I would like to firstly say that it was a very is very well thought out. It's an excellent presentation. I think a lot of the points were spot on, and especially what's going forward in the Bahamas, and as a result of the pandemic, you know, tourists are not coming back to the country, going to be looking for more hands-on, more community-based tours. I like the idea that the community hopefully is all on board, and I think one of the ways that they get buy-in is if they see money's coming in and it benefits the community as a whole. So for instance, if they have the association or an economic council, those monies that are pumped back into the community, they could see things like, you know, their own hospital being built or a community center, et cetera. That's where you'll get continuous buy-in. I like the idea of the tours, and I think, you know, we spoke about, you know, partnering with the hotels and the corporate community, but what the corporate community is going to want to see is it being done professionally. So I would admonish the association to, you know, get together with a business professional and do a business plan, because you want to see statistics. I want to see, you know, if I want to invest, I want to see numbers into it. You know, they have to say, well, you know, the tours is going to, you know, what's going to be the aspect of the tour, buying the bus, what's it going to cost, what's it going to cost to charge the tour. Once you could get that analysis together, you can actually put a business plan together and go to the SBDC. We also have some private investors wanting to invest in tourism. So a lot of that can be done, you know, once it's done properly, you know, you can get the financing for the tours, and only then you'll have companies like Bahamas or Atlantis pushing that tour. And of course, it will concern safety as well. In terms of the agricultural aspect of it, I think especially now the country spends hundreds of millions of dollars bringing in food imports. So that is very big. I understand you said Mr. Fernanda has a farm, and it'll be good to see if he can actually tap into. I think the Minister of Agriculture just spoke about making monies available to develop local agricultural aspect of the country. So it'll be good if he can tap into some of that money and to expand his farm, et cetera. And then, like you mentioned, sell to the other hotels, not just in the Gambier, but just in the surrounding areas, if he can develop that. I like the idea of a market. As we see with the, you know, recent pandemic, a lot of Bahamians, we have to support local enterprises. So it'd be good if they have that market on the weekends, et cetera, every weekend. And Bahamians can come in there, they can pick their agriculture. That could even be a tour, picking your carrots, your onions, and then paying for it. So it can be, you create an experience, because that's what the tourists want to see. And like I said, for the Bahamas, we need to reduce the hundreds of millions of dollars we spend on agriculture each year. So I think the agri-tourism linkages will be good for the community. And I think if the community could buy into it in terms of once they see money's flowing in and it benefits the community, it could be a success. And I'd like to see this, you know, duplicated in the other communities as well. So once again, congratulations on the very good presentation. Thanks for an invitation to listen to it.
Thank you so much. I will now hand over back to Elvardo to maybe close the session. At the same time, just to remind the students to please do email your presentation slide to Elvardo so that he can actually disseminate to us for us to relook at the presentation again. So I will hand over back the session to Elvardo.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Vic. Yes, and thank you for reminding the students to email me their final presentation. Once again, class, I thoroughly enjoyed your presentation. This was very informative and very educational. And I think this is the start of a beautiful thing, a beautiful partnership between the Ministry of Tourism and the University of the Bahamas. I think this represents a tremendous potential for community-based tourism within, not only within Nassau, but as well as some of our family islands, which all have tremendous potential for community-based tourism projects. I think moving forward, I think visitors will be wanting that more authentic experience. And so I think this bodes well for our tourism product. And so students, I just want to congratulate you once again on this presentation. It was very much groundbreaking. And so I know some of you will be leaving us shortly. And so the experience that you would have learned from this class, I hope that you're able to take it throughout your careers. And I know some of you are hospitality majors, so I know we will definitely be hearing and seeing a lot more of you in the near future. For those of you that are not hospitality majors, I hope and pray that you would have learned and take a lot from this class and from this experience. Also, I just want to encourage all of you that haven't provided or haven't done the course evaluation to please fill out the course evaluation. It is available via your app, so you can do it via your mobile devices. But please fill out the course evaluation. Also, just as a reminder, finals start next week, and so you can expect to, like I said, I will email you more details on your final. If there are any more questions or feedbacks, feel free to say it now before we close. And lastly, I would just like to thank all of my fellow panelists. I can't tell you how appreciative I am for all of you taking the time out to join us for this our last class for the semester. Thank you so much. I know all of you are very busy with your professional careers and your family life, so I'm very appreciative that all of you took the time to spend today on this Zoom session for our final class and our final presentation. So students, please, if you have any other last parting words, please feel free to chime in right now. Okay, if not, once again, I would just like to thank my fellow panelists and students. Thank you all as well for this beautiful presentation. Dr. Vic, thank you so much for facilitating this for us tonight. It is much appreciative, and I look forward to future collaborations.
Thank you to you, Elvardo, for getting this whole class organized, all through inviting me for the sessions and also for the whole walkabout at Gambier. And thank you to Dr. Alfred for being part of this, although he's not actually teaching in this class, but I think it was really good to get his input as a sociologist to come in and give his view. And Ms. Janet Johnson for all the support in pulling all of us together in this project, giving us a lot of pointers. So I think this is not the end of this project. This is the first start of more things to come. I think a lot of information was shared today. The students have done an excellent job. So I know some of you are already living or already completing your studies. So maybe it's a chance for you to seek employment. Maybe Janet have an opportunity for you to work on this project through after this. I don't know. So we'll see where it goes. So I'm quite excited. Slow down a bit because of the current pandemic, but at least it's giving us time to reflect on this whole project, to give us time. I think we got a lot of information now in order to relook into the whole plan of how to move Gambier to the next stage. So thank you once again to you, Elvardo.
I would only like to say to all the panelists, on behalf of our Tourism 434 Sustainable Tourism class, thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to be here and to hear our presentation. We fully and thoroughly appreciate your comments. I am sure, just like some of my colleagues, I have been taking down your feedback to improve, see how we can even further improve the project. But we thank you for your time and your feedback, and we look forward to hopefully working and seeing some of you in the future, whatever that may hold. So thank you.
Thank you, Travis.
Thank you, Travis, and thank you, Dr. Vic. Are there any more final thoughts, students? Final thoughts, panelists?
No, we are fine.
Okay, all right. So thank you all once again, and I think it's 8 o'clock, so we will officially end this session. Thank you all, everyone. Please be safe, and hopefully we will see each other in the near future.
Don't forget today is Earth Day.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you're supposed to be you're supposed to shut off at 8:30 to 9:30. shut off your lights and appliances for 1 hour in celebration of that.
Oh, okay. Thank you for reminding us, Dr.
All right then.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Okay. Okay. Take care. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
All right, good night.
Good night.
Good night. Be safe.
Good
Bye.
night.
Good night.
Good night.